Hello, everybody. It's George from Ireland. So, welcome back to my channel once again. I'm commenting on what Ron DeSantis said a few days ago. So, the governor of Florida made a particularly inane and outrageous outburst saying that Ireland is anti-Semitic and supports Muslim terror. So, it was several months ago since we in the Republic of Ireland recognized Palestine as a sovereign state. It is recognized by about 100 countries. So Palestinians are human too, in case Governor DeSantis doesn't realize that. So surely every people have a right to a sovereign state. Why should they not? You like them, you dislike them, doesn't matter. You dislike some of their policies or who they vote for. Nevertheless, they are a sovereign state. I mean, what's the cruelest tyranny in the world? I suppose that's North Korea, but that's a sovereign state, and this is obviously not the fault of the ordinary people of North Korea who have got no choice in the matter. So it's not anti-Semitic to recognize another country. Is it anti-Palestinian to recognize Israel? Is that racist too then? So Ireland, we've got a very proud record of not being anti-Semitic. I think it was in James Joyce, I think it's in his Portrait of the Artist, the Young Man, who pointed out there'd never been an anti-Semitic murder in Ireland. And that was unique amongst European countries. Unfortunately, about 1924, two Jewish men were murdered in Dublin, possibly for anti-Semitic reasons. It might have been for non-anti-Semitic reasons. It might have been for individual reasons. But anyway, nobody should be mistreated on the grounds of his or her religion, nationality, race, ethnicity, color, or anything like that. But obviously, Israel's based precisely on that, on driving out Palestinian Arabs. And in fairness, Arab countries like Egypt, Iraq, elsewhere, they drove out Jews, which is equally disgraceful and inequitable. But Palestinians have a right to a state, no matter what Hamas has done. So anyway, he doesn't want Irish businesses in Florida. So he's insulted tens of millions of people of Irish blood all around the country. Saying that we're an anti-Semitic country is obviously not the case. We have a Jewish community here. Jewish people have risen to high offices in this country, you know, indeed being cabinet ministers, being Lord Mayor of Dublin, despite the Jewish community being like 0.1% of the population. And so Jewish people here, they fled, they sought asylum here in the 1930s in the Second World War. Many of them moved to Israel, not because they're mistreated in Ireland. So it's really disgraceful and dishonest how absolutely imbecilic he is. I'm not sure, is it stupidity or is it just being deceitful? But no doubt it does appeal to some bigots in the United States. Goodness. So, Hamas, they're fighting because they want Palestine to be free, not to be illegally occupied. Hamas also has a despicable Islamist ideology, anti-gay, or believing discriminating against women. And yes, indeed, they are anti-Jewish, which is, of course, deplorable. But however bad they are, that does not deny Palestine's right to a state. The Palestinians are a people or a nation. What else are they? You think they're a section of the Egyptian nation or the Jordanian nation? I've heard that one. All right, if they want to be Egyptian, if Egypt wants to accept them, fine. But they don't want to be Egyptian, and Egypt doesn't want to accept them. If they wish to unite with Jordan, if Jordan wishes to absorb them, you could do that. But neither the Jordanians wish to take them, nor do they wish to be Jordanian. And yes, it is true that many Palestinians were driven out of their homes, fled to Jordan, and are dual citizens. But that doesn't mean that there's no Palestinian state. Just like the people who are American Israelis, that doesn't mean that Israel doesn't exist simply because some Israelis are also citizens of the United States. So it was a vile thing to say, how grossly insulting of Ireland, which is not anti-Semitic at all. Now, I wish I could say there's no anti-Semitism whatsoever in Ireland, but probably there are a few bigots in Ireland, the people of a sort of Ron DeSantis mindset. And the Taoiseach himself, Simon Harris, someone I revile, but he's right on this one. And he said that Ireland condemns the barbaric massacre carried out by Hamas on October the 7th, pointing out that how civilians were murdered. A lot of people were taken hostage and held in terrible conditions for a very long time. So it's now 145 out of 193 United Nations member states recognize Palestine. That's more than recognize Israel. So every country at first starts out as unrecognized. There was the American Declaration of Independence, the American Revolution. At first, no country in the world recognized the United States. So every country, first of all, starts out unrecognized. And Israel must have regard to what the United Nations says, because, of course, the state of Israel was created by the United Nations. And that's a key blanket was the legitimacy. They say, oh, well, it goes back to our historic thing. Okay, but Israel was recreated. Modern Israel is there because of the United Nations. Had it not been for that, it's almost impossible to see how Israel would have come into being in 1948. So it is not supporting Muslim terror. And what's Muslim got to do with it? He's appealing to the basest anti-Muslim bigotry, whether they're Muslim or whether they're Jewish or Buddhist or Hindu or atheist or any religion or no religion. Surely people are entitled to a state. What are they then? If they're not a nationality, are they not even human? One of the human rights recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a right to a nationality, and being Palestinian is a nationality. What else is it? Is it a region? If so, a region of which country? I know long ago, go back to the Ottoman Empire, there was the province of Syria, which is big, and Palestine was a vilayet of that. So anyway, no doubt it plays well in Florida with a large segment of the electorate for him to say that. But it's grossly insulting to say that this is supporting terrorism. Palestinians, whether good or bad, they have the right to a nation state, and indeed they've got one. So there's sovereign equality. They have the right to establish embassies, to issue passports, to sign and ratify treaties, and to govern themselves. Of course, they've not been able to control their own land border, their own territorial waters, or indeed their own airspace, because Israel has taken that away from them, treated them as a huge open-air prison. Likewise, in the West Bank, Israel has stolen a lot of their land, and I say that advisedly, stolen a lot of their land, constantly stealing more and more, and so on. So obviously a disarmed people, they tend not to fight back. And there are many barbaric attacks on Palestinian civilians by Israeli illegal immigrants in the West Bank. Now, Ron DeSantis is very, very firm on illegal immigration, unless, of course, it is Israeli illegal immigration into Palestine. He's got no mercy for illegal immigrants in the United States, but illegally immigrating into Palestine and kicking out the inhabitants at gunpoint is entirely permissible, according to him. But I recognize that some Israelis who moved in 1967 illegally into the West Bank, they had children born there, and their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren. And for some children, they now have no other home, in a sense, than the West Bank. They're Israelis, and they live there for a few generations. So what is to be done? Allow them to be permanent residents, not necessarily kick them back to Israel. I mean, Palestine's quite a small country, but over the 20th century, they lost about 90% of their land. No other country would be asked to accept that. No other country would accept that. They would resist. What would you do, Ron DeSantis, if you're born like that? If your religion is constantly insulted, if your nationality is constantly denied and denigrated? Goodness. So some people saying that the Palestinians should surrender, but they know the humiliation and torture that awaits them if they do run up the white flag. So the Palestinian people have been very ill-used for a very long time. But nevertheless, the Republic of Ireland has prescribed Hamas as a terrorist organization. Islamic resistance movement is what it actually means. So we've got to have some empathy for the Palestinian people who've been very ill-used. I'm sorry that there's poor relations between the United States and the Republic of Ireland, but there's obviously such injustice visited upon the Palestinians. Unsurprisingly, they don't like this. And obviously, it's the United States government which sells the weapons, which provides financial aid to Israel, although it's a very rich country, which wields its United Nations veto in favor of Israel again and again, which allows Israel to commit these crimes against humanity with impunity. And that obviously is a disgrace to the United States. The US is wielding its UN Security Council veto in favor of Israel more than in favor of itself. The United States has used its veto more than any other country, which is why Israel is able to get away with all this stuff. Okay, and I know there's a lot to be said about Israel. I can compose my hymn of praise to Israel with equality for the sexes, with rights for gay people and so on, with free and fair elections. The Israelis treat each other quite well. They don't execute their own people. They don't torture their own people. But that is no consolation to the Palestinians who are barbarously mistreated. So with this conflict would come to an end. It's not anti-Semitic to insist on human rights. It is not anti-Semitic to uphold international law. It is not anti-Semitic to recognize Palestinians as human beings. It is not anti-Semitic to recognize Palestine as a state. What really is racist is to try and deny Palestinians this recognition, or to say that they're all terrorists, that somehow that they don't count, and so on, when the terrorism I'm seeing every day is committed by the IDF. You can be a terrorist even if you're wearing an army uniform. There is such a thing as a state terror. Just because a sovereign state does something does not automatically make it lawful. Anyway, freedom for Palestine. Thank you for watching my video. So make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Toodaloo.